The choice of a papal name is not a protocolary detail, nor a ceremonial whim. Since the 6th century, it has been a gesture filled with symbolism and intention. When American Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica after the traditional Habemus Papam announcement and declared himself as Leo XIV, he was not only accepting the chair of Peter, but placing his pontificate within a precise historical lineage, deliberately choosing a name that once belonged to decisive figures in times of crisis. This gesture, however simple it may seem, carries ecclesiological, political, and theological weight with deep roots and consequences that time will reveal. Historically, the first pope to adopt a name different from his baptismal one was John II in the year 533. His original name, Mercurius, was associated with a pagan god, which was considered inappropriate for the leader of Christianity. From that point on, it became customary to choose a new name upon assuming the papal throne, usually in honor of a predecessor or a saint as a model. For centuries, the choice was predictable. Many repeated the name of the pope who had elevated them to the cardinalate, or chose common names from tradition: John, Gregory, Benedict. Starting in the 20th century, however, this gesture increasingly indicated the direction the new pontificate intended to follow. The name Leo, now chosen by Prevost, refers back to 12 previous popes. 2 of them stand out in particular. The first, Leo I, called the Great, was pope from the year 440 to 461. A firm theologian, defender of orthodoxy against the Christological heresies of the 5th century, he became famous for confronting Attila the Hun at the gates of Rome, dissuading him from invasion. Leo I represented a papacy still in formation, yet already perceived as a moral authority, not only over the church but also over the crumbling empire. The other great Leo was Leo XIII, who reigned from 1878 to 1903. Amid the rise of modern ideologies and the so-called workers' question, he published the encyclical Rerum Novarum, a landmark of Catholic social teaching. There, the Holy See affirmed workers' rights to organize and the dignity of labor, while rejecting socialism as a solution. Leo XIII tried to make the church a relevant actor in the modern world without yielding to secularism. By choosing this name, the new American pope seems to point toward that tradition of firm leadership in uncertain times. The current context, in fact, demands such firmness. The Catholic Church is facing, simultaneously, multiple crises: unresolved sexual abuse scandals, internal divisions between progressives and traditionalists, loss of influence in Western Europe, the growth of Pentecostal communities in Latin America and Africa, and a world increasingly indifferent to institutional religion. Contrary to what some may imagine, a pope's name does not resolve these tensions, but it signals how he intends to face them. Prevost, in becoming Leo XIV, seems to seek neither a break with Francis's legacy nor a simple return to the pre-conciliar model. His choice suggests rather an intention of balance, doctrinal firmness, dialogue with the world, defense of the poor, yet without relinquishing the magisterial authority of the Church. It is also significant that Prevost is the first North American pope in history. Although Catholicism has deep roots in the United States, its relationship with the Vatican has always been marked by cultural tension. The American Church, wealthy and well-structured, often acts with relative autonomy, and in some cases openly challenges Rome's guidance. A pope from this context may either reinforce that tension or seek to overcome it. Prevost does not represent American conservative Catholicism, often associated with religious nationalism and opposition to Francis. His work as a missionary in Peru and his leadership in the Congregation for Bishops suggest a pastoral profile, committed to the global church and attentive to the realities of the global South. The practice of choosing a new name, and not repeating Francis, John Paul, Benedict, or John, also reveals an attempt to write a new chapter. The name Ignatius, for example, has never been used by a pope, though some commentators have considered it a possible tribute to the Society of Jesus, the order to which Francis belonged. Names like Pius, traditional among popes of the 19th and early 20th centuries, have become symbols of anti-modern conservatism, especially after the Second Vatican Council. In this context, the choice of Leo is a conservative gesture in the etymological sense of the word, preserving tradition without rejecting dialogue with modernity. It is worth remembering that not all popes named Leo had long or remarkable pontificates. Leo XI, for example, ruled for only 27 days in 1605. Even so, the name carries an imagery of courage, doctrine, and clarity of purpose. For that reason, its revival after more than a century carries weight. Unlike names such as Innocent or Urban, now avoided due to negative associations with periods of authoritarianism and scandal, Leo still holds a positive aura, especially among the faithful who expect from the Church not only mercy, but also moral direction. Theologically, the adoption of a new name for a new mission traces back to Scripture itself. Abram becomes Abraham, Jacob becomes Israel, Simon is renamed Peter, Saul, Paul. The change of name is a sign of a transformed vocation, of a responsibility assumed before God and the community. In the case of the papacy, this tradition expresses the awareness that the elected no longer speaks in his own name, but takes on the voice of the Apostolic College and the Universal Church. As the Catechism reminds us, the Pope is the perpetual and visible principle and foundation of the unity of the Church. Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 880. His name, therefore, is a visible sign of his intention to be that foundation. Historically, the most chosen names have been John, 23 times, Gregory and Benedict, 16 times each, followed by Clement, Innocent, and Leo. Each of these names has, to some extent, become an archetype. John, the name of the evangelist and the Baptist, evokes closeness to Jesus and a prophetic mission. Benedict evokes the monastic tradition and the rebuilding of European civilization after the Roman collapse. Leo, in turn, evokes pastoral courage and doctrinal authority. These meanings are not merely symbolic. They shape the expectations of the curia, the bishops, the faithful, and even the Church's critics. Prevost's choice of Leo XIV, therefore, places his pontificate within a narrative of continuity with popes who, in times of chaos, offered direction. He did not adopt a new name like Francis did, which would have indicated a break. Nor did he choose a recent name like John Paul or Benedict, which would indicate explicit alignment with the previous pontificate. Instead, he opted for a classic name, deeply rooted but long unused. Perhaps signaling a desire for renewal through tradition. This aligns with Catholic theology of ressourcement, that is, the return to the sources of the faith to respond to contemporary challenges. It remains to be seen whether Leo XIV will live up to the expectations he himself has stirred. The choice of name is only the first gesture of a pontificate. History will show whether he resembles more Leo I, the theologian and pastor who faced barbarians and heresies, or Leo XIII, the social reformer who sought to reconcile faith and reason in the modern world, or whether he will be something new, shaped by the tensions of the 21st century. Growing secularism, crisis of religious authority, political polarization, Catholicism expanding in the global South, and a youth increasingly distant from the institutional language of the Church. What then will be the legacy of a pope who begins his pontificate under the sign of Leo? The name has been chosen. Time will now tell whether the courage it symbolizes will be lived out in practice. What kind of strength does the Church need most today? Doctrinal, pastoral, moral, or institutional? And is Leo XIV the right man to offer it? Leave your opinion in the comments.